all of these people are here because we have a climate and ecological emergency, and we need to act now. And it's hard to describe in words what this is like. I was certainly worried. I can't speak for Extinction Rebellion, but I was worried that enthusiasm was going to dwindle over 10 days. This is the final march after a very exhausting 10 days and a complete onslaught on the media about ridiculous arguments about free speech and organized crime groups. People are out in numbers, they're out proud, they're out loud, and they know that things are going to change. We can't be complacent about it though. Marching isn't going to change things. We still need to take direct action. But actually direct action isn't going to change things. What's going to change things is getting that climate and ecological emergency bill into law. We need it fast-tracked. And to do well, it's something that Extinction Rebellion don't talk about a lot, so I'm going to use this moment to talk about it. We need proportional representation. Now, Fergal mentioned that I'm a Green Party politician, and that's true. But this isn't a pitch for a particular party. This is a pitch for democracy. This is a pitch that everybody's vote has to count equally. And safe seats and unaccountable politicians, we're never going to get them to take the action that we need to take on the climate and ecological emergency because they're too caught up in vested in corporate interests. Do not ask me a question in ages. I just keep talking.
Listen, it's all, because it's is apolitical. So it's right. Saying it's three very simple demands. Where when you go through it, it's very complex. But unfortunately, we are still relying on our governing system is the system that we have, and it's proved that it's actually failing us, and it's not fit for purpose.
Absolutely. So,
what's recycling? A couple of okay.
I think it's also worth saying to people at home, it's so loud here. I don't know if it comes across on the feed, but
that's why I was trying to walk to the front. Right. Yeah. So we've got this political system that's failing here and failing around the world because we're not meeting. Out of G20 countries, we're not meeting any of our climate targets.
Absolutely. And I would say that although it's apolitical, I would say that rebellion is not party political. But actually, of course, it's a very political movement.
Very political.
Because social justice and environmental justice are inextricably intertwined. I've been really pleased to see this week more and more talks, whether it's in people's assemblies or speakers, from people from black and minority ethnic backgrounds, and even more talk about the global south. Because actually, we often use that statistic that we've got 12 years or now to get things sorted, but it's not quite true because there's horrible effects of climate catastrophe happening now all around the world. They're not just necessarily happening in the UK right now, although of course but I think it's important to point out that social justice and environmental justice are inextricably intertwined.
It goes hand in hand.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why, to come back to where I started, I think the voting system, getting that voting system changed is a real huge key to actually creating systemic change. I saw you were interviewing someone earlier on. I was listening as I was walking down the march, where he was saying that he wants to see moves away from individual change to systemic change, and that's so true. Because I'm not preaching, but I'm vegan. I cycle around. Those things are all good, and I'd encourage people to do those things. But when the media try and paint us into those boxes and try and paint us as hypocrites or purists or wear hair shirts, they're missing the point entirely on purpose. This is about systemic change. This is about governments and institutions, corporations, organizations, all taking the right action, and they need to act now.
Yeah. Okay. And since you're since you're very, very clued up and all this kind of thing, okay, we've got the likes of London Mayor Sadiq Khan example. I don't want to call out anyone individually, but like the likes of Silvertown Tunnel and these big infrastructure projects, we simply can't have them in London. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So Sadiq Khan London has declared a climate emergency. Great. He said he's going to reduce carbon emissions. Great. Yeah. But at the same time, he's talking about building a Silvertown Tunnel, which is effectively a 4-lane motorway underneath the Thames. It's going to cost £1.2 billion. I mean, it is absolutely ludicrous. It's not just about a climate emergency too. This is about air pollution, and we have some of the worst air pollution in the whole of Europe. We've got air pollution that's worse than New York and nearly as bad as Beijing. So we need to clean up London's air. You can't do that by building more roads and more tarmac. Looking at the national picture, so I'm not just being London-centric. The UK are going to spend £2 billion on decarbonisation. Sounds great, but then on the other hand, they're going to spend £27.5 billion on new roads, building tarmac, not to mention the disaster lanes. Not to mention the disaster, which is HS2. So the government are talking out of both sides of their mouth here. this is an improvement from when we started rebellion just a couple of years ago. I felt like the government wasn't taking anything at all.
I'm going to move away.
They're amazing but very loud. They're doing their job properly. Yeah, so we're talking about these things, and I think we have to be careful and paint ourselves into positions where we're anti-government, anti any kind of green movement at all. Sometimes they can do the right thing, but I think it would be ridiculous to applaud them or say they've done anything particularly well, because actually what they keep doing, just with the pandemic, is making announcements, but not actually giving us the change that we so desperately need.
Making sure we're still. I don't know how the sound's going on here, but I'm just going to ask you another question or two. And globally, okay? So globally, with the we're supposed to have the COP26 talks here in the UK. That hasn't happened. It's been delayed. You know, so there's a feeling like more than ever, especially among everybody here, like the inaction from the government is, you know, is they need to be taking the lead. You know, and take the lead and actually forcing change, especially with, like, you know, President Trump and Bolsonaro. You know, so from an international point of view, it's like, you know, we've got our Prime Minister who's got a very key pivotal role to play in this, and he's failing.
Yeah, you mentioned that I go on LBC a lot and talk radio, and one of the things that Judith Hartley-Brewer, famous climate denier, always loves saying to me is, what are you doing about China? What are you doing about Russia? They kind of need to look at our emissions. But essentially, I'm British. We're in the centre of London right now, which is the capital city of the UK. London, and the UK in particular, could be world leading. How amazing would it be if London and the rest of the UK showed the rest of the world how it can be done, if we showed a more compassionate politics, a way that is in line with social justice, where we actually say to the world, you know, you can keep moving as a country, you can keep developing, you can look after your city and have a universal basic income, you can make sure that renters are looked after, you can have a train network that works, you can have a green, sustainable transport system. I could keep going on a long one, and I won't do because people will switch off.
We've got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the key there is, rather than look at other countries and say, well, why are you not doing your bit? The UK could really show how we could demonstrate our values and be proud of, you know, looking forward into the future of being the greenest possible country we could be.
That's what we should be aiming for, as green as we can possibly be. Zack, it's always been a pleasure.
My pleasure.
Are you going to Parliament?
Yeah, I'm coming all the way.
Yeah, we'll have a chat again later. Okay, keep up the good work.
Thank you.